Okay, we are live. Meeting is yours, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll call this special meeting of the City Commission of Tuesday, July 6, 2021 to order. And we'll start with the roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Olsman.
Present. President in South Haven, sorry.
Commissioner Joe Rozelle.
Present in Huntington Woods.
Commissioner Michelle Elder.
Present in Huntington Woods.
Mayor Paul, present in Huntington Woods. And as I said, we're expecting Commissioner Jenks momentarily. We'll move on to, this is a special meeting, so we can only discuss the items of business that are listed on the agenda. We'll start with our first, which is the interviews of candidates for vacancies on the boards and commissions. And specifically, we are interviewing for the Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee this evening. And our first candidate is here with us, Brandon Marr. Brandon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're more than welcome. This is something that we like to do for boards and commissions. It gives us an opportunity to put a face with a name on a resume and get to know a little bit about you. And then you can ask us some questions if you'd like. So why don't I start by just letting you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, again, thank you for having me. I am a recent Berkeley High School graduate, and in the coming fall, I plan to attend Purdue University in their honors engineering program, and I will be studying biomedical engineering. I'm also a freelance fashion and portrait photographer, and so I have worked with numerous editorials in Detroit and different clothing companies, as well as everything from events, family pictures to senior portraits all throughout the year. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And then in my work organizing at Berkeley High School, I was on the board of our Science National Honor Society. And doing that, we worked to increase diversity and inclusion within the advanced science programs, because we definitely noticed certain trends in that area, and we were very successful in that. And then over the other summer, I handmade quite a few shirts. I hand embroidered them to raise money for different funds to benefit women of color and transgender women of color in the US and specifically in the Detroit area, as well as organizing grassroots support for certain protests and candidates over the summer. Not this summer, but last summer. But yeah, that's basically like a pretty brief intro of me.
Okay, thank you. I did misspeak. We're interviewing for the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee. Commissioner Elder, thanks for correcting me on that. Should we, I will also note at this time that Commissioner Jenks has joined us. Commissioner, you can unmute yourself and just let us know that you're present and where.
I'm present in Huntington Woods, and the reason I didn't connect earlier was I didn't have the passcode.
Yeah.
It was never supplied.
Well, it was supplied to everybody else.
Okay, well, it wasn't on my agenda, Jules.
You don't have to announce the reason. Okay, let's go.
Okay. So moving back to Brandon, does anyone have any questions for Brandon?
I do.
Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem Olsman.
So with, obviously you're by any definition very impressive individual. And so, we're in uncharted waters here, to say the least. And the questions, we're not even sure necessarily we know the questions, let alone the answers, okay? And so as somebody who grew up in Huntington Woods, as somebody who's been part of the city his whole life, so tell us how you view if you were the person who was directing this committee in terms of its charge, what would you do? How would you direct it? What would the charge be?
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about this, and in my other community organizing, I've been like taking a step back to really evaluate what I think would be the most impactful for our local communities, especially ones like our city. And so much of it comes down to education. And I know with the current anti-racism plan, there is already an educational aspect, but really leaning into that and moving forward, I think a lot of the change comes from not just people that are within the municipal government, but the residents here and them actively like doing change and growing themselves and offering good educational opportunities for the residents to unlearn certain levels of bias they might have, or just educate themselves on something new that they might not have even really understood or perceived beforehand. And then also some levels of like integration, I think, with other communities would be very beneficial, especially for our younger kids. Personally, growing up here, whatever I did, I was one of the only people of color, whether that was at fruit camp or at school, rec center events, you name it, like it was very few. And so I think
Were you
that's another thing.
were you made to? I guess looking at the totality of your experience and what you've achieved, I guess my question to you would be, how did was that a negative impact, a positive impact, or no impact? In other words, the fact that you were a minority in that circumstance.
Yes, I would definitely say that it did have parts that were like had a negative impact on my experience, especially like in grade school and things like that. The experience of walking in to a room and really having nobody that looks like you or might have like the same cultural identity of you can be very hard, especially for young kids. And like going through school, I think a lot of times like it wasn't outward racism or intentful, but little passing remarks or microaggressions just because kids did not have exposure to many people of color. I mean, my grade, I know there were two other Asian kids in my grade, and then we did not have a single Black student in our class until the third grade. And then also, like at Huntington Woods fruit camps, I don't remember a single year where there was more than other like one minority in whatever camp I was in. And so existing in an environment where you're not necessarily like ostracized on purpose, but it's this feeling of otherness that is can be deeply perpetuated in these situations and does make it more challenging sometimes. And some levels of almost like having to set some expectation for yourself to like assimilate or blend in. And now that I'm much older than I was when I was in elementary school, that work like becomes less necessary and as my environments have changed. But in like predominantly or Huntington Woods spaces, that still I think holds true for the young kids now. Like I've been active in like the fruit camps and other volunteering opportunities, and I have seen similar things kind of play out.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to say thanks. It's great to see young people stepping forward and wanting to volunteer to be on our boards and commissions. I just want to make sure, so you're going away to Purdue. When would you be going away to school? I'm just trying to make sure that it doesn't conflict with the committee's service, and maybe we could have you connect in remotely too, if that's possible.
Yeah, I will be leaving around the middle of August, but I would think that I'd be able to connect remotely. If that's not a possibility, I have other friends and colleagues that I know in the city that would be great candidates for this position as well.
You'll be able,
I will be leaving.
you'll be able to connect remotely. Trust me. We'll make sure of that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would just check with the city attorney. It's an advisory committee. It's not the city commission. So I would think we could accommodate if possible, but maybe have Carol look into it. But thank you very much for putting in your application, and I'm glad you stepped forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Elder?
Hi, Brandon. It's so good to see you.
Hi, it's nice to see you too.
Thank you for taking the time to apply and to interview with us today. My heart really goes out to you. Your story is very similar, and I wish I could just see you in person right now. But in your work on the organizations that you've worked with before, and you talked a little bit about how to increase engagement with diversity and inclusion, especially on the metrics. How were you able to do that? Can you share with us some of your success stories?
Yeah, at Berkeley High School and in other things that I've worked with, social media has played like a very large role in that, of course, but also just word of mouth and having like a good network of friends and colleagues that I work with and can reach out to with these things. And like my idea of it, it's almost like a web. Like if I tell 30 of my friends about one thing, they'll go out and tell 3 more of their friends, and it kind of just snowballs and grows out. But at Berkeley High School, where we were able to almost double, actually more than double enrollment into the advanced sciences for incoming freshmen, we like met with administrators and put together like a strategy to not only target people who we thought were underrepresented and lacked chances, but everyone like as a whole. And we did that through educational events, not only where we were meeting with the teachers and administrators across multiple schools in the middle schools and high school, but also having open lines of communication with students and their parents, and holding events for them to come and ask questions, and like raise any other concerns that they had. And I think that's really one of the best ways to get people active, is to offer very clear lines of communication and ways for people to get involved and almost take things into their own hands. And yeah, I found that works best with any of my organizing that I've done in the past.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Jenks?
Brandon, hello. Good to see you.
Hello, nice to see you.
What would you see as ways to increase the numbers of minorities locally?
So there's like no one right answer, I would say, to that. And I mean, you can read like philosopher after philosopher and contemporary philosophers on, that topic and how to make communities more diverse. I have looked into many different things, and I still like don't have one thing that I think is the best, but my research, like a lot of things are pointing towards offering more inclusive housing, whether or not that is some levels of different types of housing instead of just the single family homes. And I've talked to different people in the city about this and like how viable of an option that is. And it doesn't sound like there are that many opportunities for different types of housing rather than single family homes. But also just the entire like culture of Huntington Woods and the city. I think even if like the housing magically became more accessible, there are like, I believe, and what I've heard from people that I've talked to in surrounding communities, stigmas about what it means to live in Huntington Woods and the type of people that are welcome here. And so changing like narratives on that. And those were only things that I started to realize once I talked to people once like I was in high school, and even people in Detroit that I have worked with through my photography. I've heard similar sentiments about like not feeling as if the city was almost welcoming to certain people.
I don't understand that. And I grew up in Detroit, and I went all the way through the Detroit public schools. So, whether you want to call that diversity or not, I mean, I went to Henry Ford High School, and the late 60s and the early 70s, which was Evergreen and 7 Mile. And if I had to guesstimate the African American population of the school at that time, I'd have to say probably 20% at that time. But I'm interested in the comment about the kind of people. I'm just interested in what you heard, because a lot of this is perception, and a lot of this is, I guess I don't know what the right word for it is. I guess you have to, you can't, you have to walk in the other person's shoes and try to understand it. But I'm interested in what that means, and not on a topical level, because like I said, if you're someone that grew up and lived in Huntington Woods all their life, and now you're headed for Purdue, and you're a textbook example of success, I would say, what's wrong with the people that live in Huntington Woods? That includes you.
Yeah, so from like what I've heard from friends that I've gone to school and people I've worked with is like experiences with microaggressions from residents here. And yes, like you said, so much of it is perception. And the people that I've talked to, some of them have never had a single bad.
Explain that term to me, microaggression.
Yeah, so microaggressions, it's like a very broad term, and they're like little actions that aren't necessarily blatantly racist, but it could be something as slight as passing like a joke that is racially insensitive, or asking like questions that are like prying in a way that are racially insensitive. And yeah, but microaggressions can like be something saying, oh, your food smells bad, or comments on people's physical appearances that might not like at first take seem blatantly racist, but like once you peel back almost the normality of them, they do have some either racist undertakings or like bias.
Microaggressions happen over time, daily, and as you think of it as water chipping away its currents of a rock over time. And at first, it doesn't seem harmful. The first few are like, rub it, shake it off. But over life, every single one makes it worse. And I think we've got other candidates we have to interview. And clearly, Brandon, you bring so much value to this conversation, and we would be very lucky to have you on this advisory committee. But I just wanted to keep a time check, because we do have other applicants that we need to interview. But this is the example, the type of education that I think needs to happen. And the advisory committee is very much needed in charting this out and implementing the things that we've talked about in the anti-racism plan itself. And
Michelle,
so I don't think this is a forum
with this candidate.
to
Michelle, we've only been with this gentleman for 15 minutes because we didn't start on time. So, and I find his observations extraordinarily useful. And I mean, what are you, 18, Brandon?
Yes.
Okay. So we're 50 years apart, and and you're 100 years from Jenks. So I find your observations interesting, and I can tell you that I see no reason why Zoom cannot continue for Huntington Woods City for committees. There's absolutely no reason why, if somebody's out of town or you're going to be at Purdue or whatever, that you can't participate in a Zoom meeting unless you got a class or something like that. Don't tell me you're at a pep rally or something for the Boilermakers. That would infuriate Mayor Paul and myself, particularly if you're getting ready to play Michigan State. But anyway, it's a great school, and obviously, I agree with Michelle. You bring a lot to the table, but this is, like I said, we're in very much uncharted waters here, and we're all products of our own personal histories and everything. My father was a Holocaust survivor, which you could call the ultimate racism, where somebody tries to obliterate an entire race of people. So there's a lot of variations on a theme here, but anyway, but I do thank you, and I agree with Michelle. But we didn't start until we got, each person gets 15 minutes, and we're just right at that number with him. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Right. Once we do make the appointments, Brandon, we'll leave it up to the committee to pick the date and time that they get together. So you will be able to weigh in on that if you're appointed, and we can work with your schedule for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Nice evening.
volunteering.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Brian? Would I see somebody in the waiting room?
Yes, and there is no one in the waiting room.
I didn't see
right
anyone.
now.
That's why I didn't cut the conversation off a little bit quicker. Since there was nobody waiting, I figured we could keep talking with Brandon.
Mr. Mayor, I got a text from Heidi that Mark Filar will not be attending. He's on a trip in Colorado.
Okay. I know Richard was scheduled next. I don't know if he's having difficulty signing in. If he was using the same electronic information, I think there's an error on that. Is there any way that Heidi can reach out to him and make sure he has the right connection information?
Can someone call him on his cell phone? 248-225-8037.
Is Heidi reaching out to him, Mark?
Heidi is not back yet. I can try him, but I didn't write down the sign-in code. If you give it to me, I will call him right now and ask him to do that.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
The meeting ID is 852-0960-0554.
0554.
And the passcode is 250663.
Okay, I'll call him right now.
Rich Feldman just texted me. He said he's trying to Zoom and it's not working.
Want to text him back with that information?
I wasn't texting it. I mean, can someone text it to me so I can forward it to him?
I did earlier.
Oh, it's the same one?
Yep.
Okay, hold on.
Mark, we should probably reach out to Katie as well, our 7 o'clock appointment, and just confirm that she has the correct information.
Does someone have her phone number and I'll call her, or I'll text her.
Her cell phone number is 440-258-4942.
Thank you. Hi, Katie. This is Mark Wallenweber calling from Huntington Woods. You may not, I'm good. You're all set for your 7 o'clock interview. Okay, do you have the ID and the passcode? Because okay, do you want me to give it to you again to make sure you can log in? There may have been a mistake in it or something. Yep, yes. No. The ID is 852-0960-0554. No, not a problem. Sure. 852-096-00554. And the passcode is 250663. Yep. Good. We'll see you virtually in 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. Go in a little early and then Brian will let you in. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye.
So was anyone able to get a hold of Mr. Feldman?
I think Commissioner Elder was texting him the
I
correct.
texted it to him, but he hasn't. Oh, this says waiting for a host to let me in.
He must not be in the right meeting.
Let
Is he in the
me
meeting?
try again.
Technology is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
When it works.
Most of the time.
We're just waiting. All right, and what do you want to do, Mr. Mayor? Take a break here?
No, we should be hopefully getting Richard in here any moment. And I know Katie's coming in probably about 5 minutes from now, so.
I mean, I know it may be a little outside the scope of the meeting, but we're going to have to, the Zoom business is now going to become endemic, like the court system now is going to, a lot of courts are going to insist on Zoom motions, pretrial status conference. And I see nothing wrong with, we'll have to address it. But like I said, I want to talk about it in detail now, but I think we should come to at another time a discussion and a policy regarding use of Zoom for commissions and committees for lots of reasons. Number one, it would almost, if someone was out of town, it would make it virtually impossible for them not to attend. Now, city commission business, different, a little bit different, but I think for the other stuff, we need to think about that, especially if we're going to bring it back to this young man, bringing him, assuring him, hypothetically, if he's selected, I would want him to be able to participate by Zoom. I had another person I reached out to who's moving to Colorado, a young guy that I know real well, and he said what he'd like to, but he can't come to the meeting, so I want to be able to make that feasible, as they say. You agree, Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, the way I currently understand, and I'll talk to Carol about this, she's her associate will be on for the regular meeting tonight because she had conflict, but as long, I believe, as long as they're advisory, that's the case. And there was, and I don't think this is continued in the current way the statute was interpreted, that you could, one or as long as it wasn't a majority, I think one or two could call in or be excused and stuff, but that's still changing a little bit. But I'll ask Carol about that. I know we had to do that for the change our rules at TLN, the library network, to allow for that. And at the Detroit Area Agency on Aging, we're not, as a nonprofit group, we don't fall under the same Open Meetings Act. So they're continuing through September in virtual meetings. But I'll check with Carol. I'll get a note to her as to which of our boards and commissions can act on it. And if there is the change, it used to be that one or two members, depending on the number, as long as they were advisory, could call in or be in virtually that. But I'm not sure that that has continued, but we'll check that.
I said, if the court system is going to allow it, not just allow it, going to insist on it. My understanding is like Wayne County has for the time being has said they'll do all motions with the court virtually, unless the court orders the parties there to be orders that the parties be there personally. So counsel the parties be there personally. So, but I think that's something we need to encourage here, to encourage participation.
Could also look into a hybrid, if it is allowed, Mark, where the group is meeting in person at City Hall, and then we have a way of bringing in the remote.
That would be really constructive.
Maybe since Richard could not get in, as soon as Katie logs in, maybe you can take her and we'll reschedule Richard for the next meeting, or take him after Katie.
Yes, that would be fine. As soon as Katie gets into the waiting room, we'll definitely take her.
Okay.
Hey, I just hung up with Rich. He's trying again. I think he wasn't putting in the spaces.
My man.
He just texted, they will not let me in. I don't have the space bar on this phone access. I don't know, maybe we should just reschedule him.
It's fine. I agree with that.
Why don't you, reschedule him, Michelle?
Yeah, I'll call him tomorrow and apologize for the confusion here. And we'll reschedule him for when you have one other or a couple others on the third, I think it's the 13th.
Do we have anybody now?
We're expecting Katie.
No candidates.
Brian, let me make sure I gave her the correct information. I hope I didn't write it down. The ID is.
I've got her right here.
Okay,
She's joining right now.
great, perfect.
Hi, Katie. Can you see and hear me okay? Oh, you're muted.
Unmute.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hi, Katie. Welcome to the special city commission meeting, and thanks for joining us, and thanks for volunteering to help us out on our advisory boards.
Thanks, great to be here.
This is an opportunity that the commission likes to do. It allows us to put a face with a resume and get to know a little bit more about you and give you the opportunity to ask us any questions as well. So why don't I start by just letting you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, that sounds great. Hello everyone. My name is Katie Beaulieu. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And we moved to the neighborhood in November. So I'm still a relatively new resident. Loved going to the new residence reception recently, although that was a funny cold evening for sure. Definitely doesn't feel like that anymore outside. But my husband, Robbie, he is here. What brought us to Michigan is he was here for his medical fellowship training in oculoplastics. So now he is attending in several different locations in the area, a little bit at Beaumont, DMC. And so that is kind of what brought us to Michigan. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and my husband is from Dayton. And we actually met at Ohio State. So I hope that doesn't cause any negative feelings for anybody. And I work at Wayne State University. So my career is in higher education and student affairs, not necessarily on the academic side, but on student services. So helping students with everything outside the classroom in order to be successful in the classroom. So I have worked there at kind of overseeing the student center, so the campus kind of center on campus since we've moved here, which was back in 2018. We have a 2-year-old daughter. She is a very excited toddler right now. And so already we've loved being a part of the community and having her be able to meet so many other kids her age and get to know everyone too. So that's been really fun. And I guess that's really it for now. I'm happy to share anything more.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
Got some
Hello.
good.
Mr. Mayor, Katie, this is Michelle Elder. It's nice to meet you. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to meet at the new residence events. Well, welcome
Thank you.
to Huntington Woods. I'm excited to see that the experience that you have with working with young people, and especially at the university. I imagine, Wayne State is a pretty diverse population. Just curious on your, you've been here a short while, your perception of Huntington Woods, or what kinds of city programs have you been involved with, and what is the initial reaction as a new resident coming here, and where do you see opportunities for improvement?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think for us, I think fortunately, or frankly, we kind of got lucky where we moved in a very busy time for the market, but it wasn't it's gotten even more crazy, I guess, or high volumes, high demand since then. So we knew that when we had the opportunity to move to Huntington Woods, that we needed to capitalize on that. And it was because we know that when people come to Huntington Woods, or at least from what we understand, they don't leave. And it's a very fortunate opportunity for a home to become available that fit us. So we know we had to take our chance while we had it. And that was what a realtor gave us that advice as well, of I've always wanted to move here, but never had the right time for it in terms of when they were looking and when a house was available. So we know that we're lucky for the chance to be here, have loved the neighborhoods, everyone in our neighborhood. I live on Concord, and everyone has been so welcoming from the beginning. We have a fun dynamic because we've got folks that have been a part of the neighborhood and a part of Huntington Woods for a long time, whose kids are older. And then I've been able to also connect with families that have younger kids, like 2-year-olds as well. And so the neighborhood is kind of evolving, and I'm sure that's always how it has been too. But I feel fortunate to not only be able to connect with families that are more kind of on the same life timeline as we are, but also be able to learn and to connect with people that have been a part of the neighborhood and the community for a longer time. And they've already been so welcoming for us. So that's been really great. We went to the kids concert on Friday, and that was a really cool opportunity. I think with COVID, obviously it's been challenging to get to connect. I also, because I work full time, I don't get to participate in some of the daytime activities during the day that maybe other families would be able to. And so in some ways that's a little challenging to be able to connect, because maybe the more popular child activities are not happening earlier, or are happening earlier in the day or during the week. Whereas I'm more free on the weekends. So that's why the kids concert was such a great opportunity for us. And then also participating in the 4th of July parade. That was really cool to see that. It was cool having our daughter experience a parade for the first time. It was kind of funny. They kept throwing the candy back when they got candy thrown at them, because they thought it was like a 2-way street. So it's just fun experiencing things for the first time, through a child's eyes, and seeing oh, I never would have thought of that, but that makes sense. So overall, I would say very, very welcoming, and lots of different things to do, different activities. We went to the pool recently. And so I think with our schedules, we're pretty busy with work, but also have time. And so that's also why my interest is also to be able to contribute and get more involved and get to know more of you all, and be able to help out for the long term.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Did I answer all your questions, Michelle? I guess one of your questions was just maybe some improvements, right? And so I would say at this point, I don't quite have that yet. I think what speaks to me right now, and what I've been thinking about in preparing for this conversation, is just one statistic that kept coming out in the anti-racism plan was just 95% white. And I think that's something that I would love for that to change, and for more families that look like me, for more daughters that look like my daughter to be in Huntington Woods, because representation is very important. I think as inclusive a community as Huntington Woods has been, from my opinion, you still have to have that diversity and that representation. So I would love to be involved with some of the long-term plans to be able to make that happen. And I see some of that in the plan right now, but no, that doesn't happen overnight. And so that's something that I think would love to see that improved. Even at the 4th of July parade, for example, everyone was so welcoming and it was such a great time, but I felt like I didn't see myself there, and I didn't see my daughter in the people that were at the parade. And so I would love for that to improve in one way or another.
Mr. Mayor. So Katie, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. We appreciate your insights. So you've lived here since November. I've lived in the city since 1976.
Wow.
And, so a long time. So just as somebody, what made you decide you wanted to live in Huntington Woods?
I think for us, a big piece of it was the neighborhoods in terms of, in some ways, the makeup of we came from Royal Oak. And so you don't have the same yard spaces, the types of houses. They're pretty common in Royal Oak, where they're either the bungalows, or now I'm seeing the evolution of these giant brand new houses that are like stretched out to the full plot of the land. And there's nothing else in terms of a yard. So I love just like the landscape. All the houses are so beautiful and so unique and interesting. And I love the character of the houses. Our house, for example, is not completely renovated, but it has good bones, and there's a lot of potential to make it more a home and make it ours. And so that's what made us excited about that. The location has been very great in terms of my husband being at different locations constantly with his job, different like medical locations in different areas as part of Detroit, me being down at Wayne State. We love living off the Woodward corridor. That's been really great. So many different things to do and activities.
Did you know, so you lived in Royal Oak, so you must have, you were familiar with the community and stuff like that. So, taking into consideration the demographic, there was nothing off-putting about that to you.
Correct. Yeah, there wasn't, not that. I think the other piece I'll say is just as we prepare for our daughter to be in school, obviously Burton is a great elementary school. And so that was also something that had played a factor for us, is a great school system, a great community for her to grow up in.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, like I said, we're very much in uncharted water here, like everybody is with this. And
yeah.
Look, we're all a product of our own backgrounds and our own experiences. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and he had 7 brothers and sisters and their families who were murdered in the Holocaust. And so, even though I didn't know them and so forth, they were, a huge number, probably 30-some-odd people of one family who were murdered for one reason. It's because they were Jewish. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, I know, but that was 70 years ago. And so the question now for a municipality is, I make no apologies for Huntington Woods. I'm very proud of Huntington Woods. And I understand the demographics of the area probably better than people, because I lived in Detroit. I watched what happened in Detroit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I watched that movie for a long time, and I saw why it happened. There are multifactorial reasons for it, but we had a very interesting, and I just want to engage with you for a second. We had last winter, we had a Berkeley historian who has done a lot of work on the history of the area. And he spoke to the city via Zoom through the library and detailed, like, for example, the presence of the KKK in Berkeley in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. So when people always say, well, I don't understand the demographics of the area, say, well, do you understand what the 3 letters KKK mean? And, they weren't exactly like move here, that it was sort of the opposite. So it's very hard to, and we brought up Father Coughlin. There was an article about this weekend in the Free Press. You talk to most younger people today, they have no idea who Father Coughlin was, and the pure raw hate, vile, despicable stuff he spewed out, under the auspices of a religious pulpit. And so, no, I'm just, like I said, we're in very much uncharted waters here. And it seems to me for this group, this committee to be meaningful, we should be able to have frank, open discussions with one another about, very sensitive topics. And I mean, I'm glad we're doing it. I'm very supportive. Commissioner Elder has been a huge proponent and a very important part of all this, and I applaud her for it. But on the other hand, like I said, I make no apologies for the city. I mean, we're a place, if you want to live in Huntington Woods, that tells me all I need to know. Okay.
Sure.
And you had a predecessor interviewee tonight who was the most impressive, one of the most impressive young people I think you could ever talk to. And if he grew up in Huntington Woods, you know what I say? Man, I want to move to that city. So, like I say, I make no apologies, but on the other hand, I think as a policymaker, we need to look forward and we need to have a clear vision. So we look forward, we hope that you'll be part of this and you'll be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if I could also share a little bit more, I think something that plays into a lot of this is just like you shared so much of your identity, and that's a big piece of that. So for me, I was actually born in South Korea and adopted by a white family. And so in some ways, I have an interesting perspective, I would say, because I see both, my eyes are both the lens of a white person as well as the lens of a person of color. And so I kind of have an inside and outside perspective in that.
Those are all assets from where I come from. God, those are, how much better could you be?
They're also, though, I would say privileges that can be kind of blinders where you don't see everything that you need to see. And I think that's the other challenge that we have to figure out.
Michelle and I have had this discussion for a long time. We're talking probably, the number of generations that's going to take, you saw my granddaughters and grandchildren here tonight. This is stuff they're going to wrestle with. I'm 68. Jenks is, believe it or not, even older than I am. And,
just by 6 months.
Yeah. You throw on another 20 for you. But the point of fact is, it's very complex, and it's not, in my opinion, and I make no bones about it, this is not something that should be addressed very topically. And I, like I said, I'm very grateful for your involvement, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie, do you have any other questions for us?
Well, I'm new to Huntington Woods, as you all know, that I just shared. And so I'm still trying to understand what you would describe as the role of an advisory committee. Because I'm like a get in there and do things and make it happen, detail-oriented event planner, things like that. And that's not necessarily the role of an advisory committee. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, what you would like to see and what you're expecting from those that are part of this group.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I believe that's for you to.
Okay. You wanted to make a comment?
Wake up. No, I'm done talking.
This is new ground for us, obviously, this particular committee. So an advisory committee, as a rule, recommends policy to the city commission. And that would be the same for this advisory committee. But because, like I said, this is groundbreaking for us, we are looking for a lot of input. We all recognize that we have a lot to learn, and we are open to many suggestions. So to some degree, this committee is going to be writing their own road and making suggestions to the commission on all sorts of anti-racism related issues. So we can't really spell out exactly what road we're going down, but we will tell you that you have the full support of the commission as you go forward.
Well, and I do think that the plan that has been provided, that is more of a roadmap than I've ever seen in terms of specific guidelines, specific markers, specific steps, timelines. So in some ways that the plan's already been made. It's just a matter of making it come to fruition, which is, I feel like in some ways I might have the easier job. It's the conceptualization that I know takes a while to get everyone on board so I really appreciate that. And this makes my job even more exciting. Should I be a part of this committee, because we're able to kind of see what's already in place. The blueprint's there. It's just a matter of building the house, I guess I would say.
And even when we adopted that plan and policy, we said that this is a work in process. We are not saying this is the final product here. It's going to be constantly evolving.
And it's probably going to also involve action, as you suggest, ahead of time, whether it's getting groups together, whether it's doing events, whether it's publicizing our city and what we're doing outside our boundaries, and letting us people know that we're welcoming.
Once the appointments are made to the committee, we'll set up an initial meeting date, but then we'll let the committee figure out the good day and good time for everyone that's involved to meet and how often. You know, we're recommending to start with 4 times a year, but maybe as the committee starts their work, they might feel like that's not enough, and that is up to you as a committee. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your time. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have the information for the regular city commission meeting?
I'm afraid of logging off.
Okay. We do have more interviews coming up in the next few weeks. I think Mark said we even had one that couldn't make our next scheduled date, so we may try and schedule them prior to the next city commission meeting. So we won't discuss any appointments at this time. We'll wait till we interview everyone.
Do you want to?
Mayor, I don't have a calendar invite for the 7:30, so I'll just take it off the meeting agenda. I did have one for the 6:15. But if as long as the login info on the label on the agenda is good, then I'll be
I
able to.
sent it in an email.
Right.
You can tell them.
We don't want you to know it, Roselle.
That's fine by me. I get paid the same whether I'm there or not.
And worth the full amount that you get paid.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn the special city commission meeting?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Please sign on to the next meeting. Thank you.
We have to sign off too, right?
Mhm.
We leave.
That's right.